On this episode of Delivering Marketing Joy, we talk with Sara Webb about how to educate and recreate yourself. Hey there, and welcome to another edition of Delivering Marketing Joy. I'm your host, Kirby Hasseman, and I am so excited today. I'm joined by Sara Webb. Sara's the CEO of In Tandem Promotions. Sara, thank you so much for taking the time.
No, Kirby, thank you so much for this opportunity, and I love your program, and I'm excited to be here.
Thank you. Well, what I try to do is I do a little stalking and research on people before they're on, and I know that you just went to the WBENC Conference in Vegas. So can you tell us about that, and what do you gain from events like that?
Yeah, absolutely. So about 3 years ago, we became Women Business Enterprise Certified, which is what the WBENC stands for. Mm-hmm. And in building my business, I spent so much time just keeping the lights on. I wasn't going to events. I wasn't able to think outside of the box. And through that, I wasn't really investing in what I needed to be investing in, which is outside of the box and networking and talking to people to continue to build a brand. And so at about 3 years ago, I started to actually participate in some of these events and conferences. And there's so much information that is out there and just talking to people that you don't even realize. One of my favorites was the last one that I went to, which was actually in New Orleans, and it was called the Summit and Salute Conference. And this woman that I sat next to at lunch, were not competitors, not even in the same industry. She used to sell bras on the Home Shopping Network.
All right.
Right? So in selling bras on the Home Shopping Network, she saw thousands and thousands and thousands and millions of bras leaving. Okay? And in doing that, she has actually built a business because her question was, what happens to the bras when they've been used? Are they just thrown in the trash? I mean, a logical question.
Right.
So she patented a process on how to take the bras and recycle them and create carpet padding.
Okay.
So total random conversation, but from that, what I started thinking about was, what are some things that are happening in our industry that are wasteful from a production standpoint? Mm-hmm. And as you know, you work with a number of clients who either overorder or they have changed their logos or something crazy has happened. And so all this swag is sitting in their, on their bookshelves, hidden in closets, things that they don't want to talk about. So in just having that small conversation, we created this Go Green initiative this year, where it was Go Green, Get Green. And so we would provide our clients with labels, UPS labels. They would ship us their product that they could no longer use. We would then distribute it throughout the nation for organizations that were in need, so schools, homeless shelters, things like that. The clients would actually get the tax write-off, so we would write it for our clients. Our clients would also get a discount on their next order for sending us their non-usable product. And then they'd also get a water bottle. So it was this whole Go Green, Get Green. But having an opportunity to brainstorm with her on something that's completely unrelated with us definitely has helped propel us forward and think outside the box.
Wow, that is, so first of all, really cool idea. I think that's really awesome and cool that it's like you're touching several different positive points, so kudos. And then, yeah, I agree. I think that every time I get in a room with people smarter than me, I end up coming with ideas that I wouldn't have come up with on my own. And so, good for you. That's awesome, and I'm glad that that's providing you value for sure.
Absolutely. So definitely go out there and go to these conferences and participate in organizations.
Yeah. So in business, I think it's important to continue to recreate yourself over time. So I guess first, I kind of feel like you've done that. And so I wanted to see if you agreed with that. But if so, how do you think somebody goes about recreating themselves?
Well, I think if my team was in here, they would totally be laughing at that question because it is something that we talk about every single week. I feel like what Dr. Phil says, is that working for you? That question all the time. Is what you're doing, is it working for you? Is it providing value? Are you learning from it? Are you growing? Are you improving? And if not, then stop. And if it is, then keep going, but continue to move that in a different direction. And so, one of the things that really helps me is on education. I mean, I'm a pretty big nerd. And so I love reading. I love webinars. I love, following and stalking people and listening to influencers. But I had the opportunity last year, this time, to actually participate in CBS's Roger Williams program. And it was sort of like a mini master's program.
Wow.
So it was about 6 months worth of time. And so I would work 40 hours a week, and then you go 40 hours a week to class.
Wow.
So it was a pretty intense program. But what was awesome about it, even though it was only 6 months, you had the opportunity to really dive into your business, hear from professors and educators, and be able to carve out and create responses to RFPs and understand your brand positioning and really take that time, because in this role, as you know, you don't spend enough time. You spend more time putting out fires than you should, and not enough time planning for tomorrow. And I think reinventing ourselves, and with things changing so fast. When I started in this business, we were faxing. We were overnighting ad slicks.
Yeah.
And now, we're doing orders in 24 hours, and you're creating artwork. And before you couldn't create artwork, now you're creating artwork. And things are just going so fast, and you never know when the next opportunity or roadblock is going to come. And so I think definitely spending the time and investing and learning is definitely going to help any entrepreneur.
Oh man, it's fantastic advice. I love it. And it's funny. I keep thinking of books I've read and some of the things that you've talked about. One of the things that, even in the first two questions, it reminds me of the book E-Myth, where he talks about working on your business instead of in your business, right?
Yes.
And it feels like you are making the commitment to work on your business so that you know where it's going, as opposed to getting so close in the weeds. And so that's good stuff. Final question for you. What's the best advice you've ever received for running a successful business?
Oh, so I have been spoiled, literally. So I've worked with some of the best in our business. Janelle Nevins is my mentor, and she really provided me with a framework on how she worked and her values, and that made a tremendous impact on me. And then I've worked with Marsha Londe, who has made a significant impact on me. And then we're part of the partnering group. So all of those partners have made an impact. But I think what's been awesome is that their advice has been perfect for the moment that I needed it. And right now, Antietam is going through a lot of changes where we're trying to figure out what our own next steps are. And so my current best advice that just keeps running through my head is actually a quote from Mark Cuban. And he says, to work as if there's somebody working 24 hours a day to take it all away from you. And I think if that doesn't light a fire in my belly, I don't know what is going to.
That's fantastic. It's all about the hustle, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Well, cool. You've answered my 3 questions. I give everybody a chance to ask me one question. Do you have one for me?
I do. Are you ready?
I hope.
So I have 2 daughters. One is 11 and one is 7. And they have absolutely grown up in this business from day one. Grinding with me, cleaning out sample closets, bringing home samples. And with you and your background in growing up in this business, what is the advice that you can provide me as a parent? But then also, how has this business and having parents in this business influenced you and your career path?
Wow, gosh. Okay, so I would start with the second one. So I think it's been really interesting. As you said, I grew up in the business, and then also, obviously I've got kids that are growing up in the business. I think that it was interesting when I decided to get in the business, people assumed I knew things that I didn't really know. Just because I'd been around it all my life, they'd be like, "Oh, well, it's a vector art, whatever, right?" And so when you first, you're like, "Yeah, sure, I know what that means." So don't assume that people know. You still need to train people. The other thing I think it's important when it comes to kids in the business is making sure they do everything. I think there's a real easy because you're comfortable with them, an easy way to hand off things that they're not really ready for. My kids are our cleaning crew, so they literally come in the weekends and clean and sweep and take out the trash because I don't want there to be a sense of entitlement. And gosh, as for parenting, it's weird, Sarah. I've actually gotten several parenting questions here lately, even off air, whatever, and I'm not sure I'm qualified, right? But probably the best thing I've heard here recently, and I've repeated it a couple different times, is that kids are paying attention even when you think they're not. And I think to keep teaching them even when you think they're not listening, because they're probably listening. And I love this quote. It's more is caught than taught. So, so if you are telling them one thing but doing another, they notice. And so if you want to teach your kids, lead by example. So and again, I don't know if that's my advice. I'm borrowing it from others.
No pressure at all, right?
No, trust me. There are times where I'm like, oh no, nobody saw me do that, right? Well, cool. Thank you, Sara, so much for taking the time. I really appreciate it. And we'll have to do it again, okay?
Sounds great. Thank you, Kirby.
Well, that wraps up another edition of Delivering Marketing Joy. We'll see you next time.